go. Good evening again. Hi, everybody. We are super grateful that you're here tonight, especially considering it's kind of a late meeting, but we have a lot of really valuable information to share with you. My name is Lauren Bell. I am proud to be on the board of the Learning Disability Association of Georgia with some fabulous people who I'm always learning from. And tonight we're going to be hearing from Miss Julia Wilson and Miss Charell Coleman. And they're going to be sharing all about the transition to middle school. um, we are, again, really glad that you guys are here. If you can't stay for the whole thing, we will have this recorded and posted to our YouTube channel. So we'll send that out afterwards. If you have any questions, we really want to hear them. We want any feedback, and um, we're just happy to connect with you. So if you could put any questions you have in the chat box, and our presenters will probably wait until towards the end of their presentation to address any questions. But I mean, if it moves them, they might, address them as they come. So without further ado, I will go ahead and mute myself and pass it over to Miss Julia and Miss Charell. So thank you guys for being here.
Good evening, everyone. I am Charell Coleman, and I'm so delighted that you all are taking time with us this evening to share this conversation about the transition to middle school. I know that this can be a daunting time for many families, leaving the elementary school setting to go to the middle school. Today, we'll get a chance to talk about why this is so daunting and some things you can do to kind of help you to navigate the journey. So I am first Charell Coleman. I've had the opportunity to be an educator for 29 years now, and I've served in several capacities, K through eighth grade, as an educator, as a teacher. I've also had the opportunity to be an executive functioning coach and coordinator for private school, independent school. I've had the opportunity to also work with adults with the emotional well-being space on the professor level at Mount Holyoke. And I currently serve as a state literacy coach in the state of Georgia. So I've had an opportunity to see the transition literally happen from elementary to the middle school as well as other stages of life. And so some of the things that our parents ask pretty much is like, what emotional changes should I expect? What about organization? What about their friendships? How do I navigate them becoming more independent as they're going into their middle school stage without, letting go? The parents want to continue to navigate the journey as far as the students being responsible. However, sometimes it's a struggle. It becomes a power struggle for the child and the adult, whether it's the parent or guardian for them, as well as parents are asking, like, what about the academic support? How much to give? How much should I pull back? And we have some of the resources and strategies here that we are hopeful that will definitely help you to navigate this journey. So let's get started. So here again, this is myself. I'm Charell Gibson Coleman, and
I am Julia Wilson. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we get started, but I am an educator as well. I work in the independent school system. I work at Pace Academy. I teach sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade as a learning specialist. I've been doing this for about 7 years, and I work primarily with students who have learning differences, but I work with middle schoolers. So, like Charell said, I've seen the transition from elementary to middle school. And in the environment that I work in, the work is rigorous. There's a lot going on, and so I've helped many students navigate that transition and try to help them become more independent, as well as help their parents cope with the transition as well. So I'm really excited to be doing this presentation and talking to you guys about some strategies. So let's get into it.
all right, so why are we here? First, we're here to talk about everyday routines because we know that that can impact the student's life a lot when it comes to adolescence as well as being a middle schooler Organization is one of the top things that students struggle with, so we'll definitely visit that. The well-being of the student. Lots of times we're looking at how they are coping with the navigation from being an elementary student to an adolescent. So the well-being component is a huge part of their adolescent stage as they are growing into this new body, so to speak. And what can we do as parents at home to help them navigate this journey? That's what we'll mainly be focused on, these four areas today.
So, why is the move to middle school? Why does it feel so big? And there's a few reasons. For example, before we get into the strategy, I think it's important to acknowledge why the transition feels big for students and parents. So, in elementary school, students are in a contained environment. They may have one primary teacher, one classroom, and adults are doing a lot of the remembering and organizing for them. And then suddenly we get to middle school. So now we're talking about multiple teachers, multiple classrooms, different expectations, classrooms, lockers, more students in the hallways, and a lot more responsibility placed on the student. So the biggest shift is the student becomes responsible for things that adults were previously helping to manage. And so they're expected to know, what do I have to do for homework? When do I have to go to soccer practice? What time is my mom coming to pick me up? What materials do I need? How do I study? And developmentally, they're still learning how to do all of that. So in my work, I work with a lot of, like I said, students and parents, and they are ultimately trying to find the balance from, okay, I was just babying them in elementary school and doing everything for them, but now they're in middle school. How do we adjust to this giant shift? How do I still promote independence, but also make sure I'm still here to support them? So.
Yes, it is a huge shift for sure. That's why we have to have something where we have everything ready for the day. So we want to talk a little bit about their sleep habits as well as a launch pad and the screens and the phones. It becomes a huge part of their lives, especially as we release them to be teens, so to speak, and we allow them to be on social media. How does that affect them? As we know, every piece of research have shown us more screen time equals less sleep time, which affects their academics, which affects their social lives, and it just becomes a vigorous cycle. So, first thing we need to know is sleep is their superpower. Every study that you will look at and read, CDC, the National Health Organization, all of those things, they show that sleep is most important as an adolescent. If you're not rested, then the brain does not wire and fire its proper way of it, what that it normally would. So middle schoolers, they need 8 to 10 hours of sleep each night, and it has to be intentional. So, how do we do that? We have to set timers. We have to set timers and we have to set limits for them. And the best thing that I've seen as a coach going into a home is for the parent to speak with the student and to help them to see the research that's there. Have them to look at articles that show that sleep studies show how high performing the brain becomes as an adolescent when you have the proper amount of rest. Why do we need this sleep? We need the sleep because it sharpens our brain. And if not, then we experience lots of brain fog. Sometimes we have students who are identified as attention deficit when they're really just not getting enough sleep. So we want to be careful that we are not doing the things that really promotes that sleep deprivation and makes our labels become cross-connected. Because if we don't get enough sleep, then we do happen to have the consequences of not getting our rest, which is sometimes heavy brain fog. That sleep also boosts our health, immune system. It helps them to have more energy during the day. It helps them to improve their decision making, which in return, we all know that it just produces better critical thinkers.
So, something that helps is starting the sleep reset 2 weeks early. So, it's summertime, they're sleeping in, they're sleeping late, they're staying up, they're, playing games. So trying to get them prepared for what's to come is really important. And the 2 week reset really helps. I've noticed it's a real help for students to get adjusted before school begins. So shift gradually, make sure you are kind of scaffolding their bedtime so that they're ready by the time it's the night before school to get up on time. Screens off 1 hour before bed. That's very important. The brain needs time to calm down and to reset and to get into sleep mode. So making sure there's no screens, no TVs, they don't have their phone on them. And they're just really just resting. Reading is fine, but make sure that they don't have any screens. Light and movement first thing. So when you wake them up, open the curtains. I know, everybody's daily routine is different, but just making sure there's light in the room and they're waking up to like a pleasant morning and no stress, the least stress possible so that they're able to have a good day. Um, Hold the line on the weekends, wake up within about an hour of school days, or Monday feels like jet lag. Just try to prepare them for success, set them up for success. So if you know that they have to get up early, just have them start practicing. They'll appreciate it. They may complain, but they'll appreciate it in the long run for sure.
Absolutely. And just reiterating there, vitamin D is so important to our bodies. That's why we suggest opening up that curtain in the morning. And if you become kind of a creature of habit to doing that, the brain will start to feel the sun, feel the vitamin D, and it begins to respond to that in the morning as sort of a wake up signal. So it's a good practice to have in the morning, which is opening that curtain for your kid. Then we have the night before launch pad. So some of the kids that I go into their homes, they'll fight me on this one because they don't want to have to do the night before work. But once they start having a launch pad, they are forever thankful. So we do this, and the parents practice this as well as the student practice it. And eventually the student becomes their own guide, which is what we want. We want to foster independence. So packing their bag at night completely, that means all homework is in there, all sports clothes are in there, even the gym shoes they need to change in, they're in there. Any of the return forms for the next day, every single thing is in there, including some kids have iPads that they have to take to school. So what I have them to do is literally put their iPad in there with the cord hanging out so that the cord can stay plugged in to the wall and the book bag is close enough to the wall so that it doesn't lose the charge at night. And one in the morning, all you have to do is unplug and then put your cord into your book bag. But every single thing needs to be in that book bag at nighttime. It will make a world of difference for everybody in the house. It keeps mom and dad from running late for work because the bag is packed. All you have to do is get your stuff and be out the door. Lay those clothes out in the morning. Some kids at adolescent stage is no sense in fussing about ironing because if you think that it should be ironed and they don't think it's sort of a battle that you don't want to have, then let them go. I mean, this is kind of what we do in adolescent stage. We allow them to learn by doing and experience. So have them lay out their clothes, make sure, again, all forms are signed. We have the planner in there packed for the day. We've all of the devices are charged, and you make sure they have something to eat in their stomachs. In this adolescent stage, lots of times they'll say, I don't want to eat. Find something, whether it's a smoothie, whether it's a protein bar, whatever that thing is, they need something to start with that fuel in their body in the morning. And here on the right, you'll see kind of a sketch of a launch pad. And if you need to, if you feel like this is helpful, some people have found it very helpful to make just a checkoff list. So I would highly, highly suggest a checkoff list by your launch pad. Your launch pad, most of the times when I go into homes, I make that the mud room. The launch pad is in the mud room. So that's one tip that I've found to work very, very effectively.
One thing I can add to Charell is just modeling that behavior as well. Like I lay my clothes out at night, or else I will have a rough morning. So just showing them this is what we do as parents as well. Like my laptop bag has my computer, my planner, my all of my things, so that they know this is something that you'll have to do for the rest of your life. So it's not just a school thing. So.
I agree.
The planner. So I preach planner every single day at my job. The kids love to fight me on using a planner because they say, well, I could just remember everything in my head. I can just Google Classroom, blah, blah, blah. But what they don't realize is like your brain can only hold so many things. You have so many things going on. And so you may think that you're going to remember your math test is tomorrow and your science questions are due in 2 days, but you're not. You might, but sometimes you will forget because you have so many things going on. So it's best to just have those tools in place ready for you in case you do forget. So I always, always recommend having a physical planner. I know that a lot of things are digital these days, but like at this middle school level, I love for them to at least start out with having a physical planner, something that they can write in every day. They know that they have to take it out when their teacher says, okay, we are doing problems 2 through 10 tonight. Okay, that's my cue to write it down in my planner and then put my planner back in my backpack and take it home. I take it out. Oh, this is what I have to do for homework. A lot of kids will really fight me on that, but once they realize and see, okay, the planner is useful, I'm going to keep using it. And also like customize it. Make sure it works for you. You could decorate it. You know, if you don't like this planner, use another one. And then from there, you'll get used to it and it will just become a habit. The binder system. So it really depends on the school and the classes and kind of what system the school has set up. But for some of my students who really struggle with executive function issues, I do recommend the one binder system where they have one binder for all subjects. So they have like an active folder for active work where they have like homework, tests that need to be signed, things that need to be done that night, but then they have a one binder system for all of their subjects. So it depends on the school, it depends on the, whatever's going on. But for kids who forget things and struggle with like remembering, I do encourage the one binder system, and it's less stress. And then they have that one active folder for things like, okay, I need to do this tonight. I need to show my mom this. So they have those two things. The Friday check-in or reset. I actually recommend either doing this like Friday or Sundays. Just making sure you take time to clear out your backpack, clear out your binders. If you see loose papers, throw them away. Does this need to stay? Does this need to go? And making sure you have a clean reset for the week ahead. And this is also something that you can do with your student. Just check in. And at this point, while you're doing this, you can see what are all the things they have going on. What are all the activities and the assignments and things. Just do a quick reset, a clean out, just to make sure everything is clean and ready to go for the next week.
Right. And as a part of time management, a really big key here for the reset is to set a 15-minute timer. Literally 15 minutes timer up and we're done. You can even set it for 10 minutes. But at that 10-minute point, it is over. Like you want to set that as the standard. And going back to the planner, the one thing as a parent in middle school, it is important for you to understand and to help them to relinquish that independence is that you're not looking to see if the math problems are correct, if they're accurate or not in their calculations. You are looking to see that it's just done. Looking to see in the planner, is it written down? Now that you've written it down, have you completed it? It's completed. Now let's put a check off there. They need a check or they need a scratch through. It's one of the two, but we have to have a system. Again, these are all systems and routines that we're putting in place for them, which that's a whole nother talk on executive functions. But we definitely have to have a systematic approach there. I want to pause right quick to see if there are any questions. And if you do have questions, feel free to come off and ask the question, or you can drop it in the chat box. Lauren, do we have any questions so far? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I knew that was bound to happen.
That's okay.
I said there's no questions so far in the chat box. I had just written a comment because when you guys were talking about sleep, something that came to my mind was what I actually wrote was if your child snores heavily, this is new to me, it could mean that they're not getting good quality sleep. And I know this because my 2-year-old was snoring so loudly, it turned out she had what's it called? Enlarged adenoids.
Right.
So if you're trying, I mean, it's just, this was so surprising to me. So just to add on in the importance of sleep, if your child is like snoring heavily, it might be something worth talking to their pediatrician about. But otherwise, I don't see any questions in the comments. I'll keep an eye out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And piggybacking on what Lauren just mentioned, I had a student this year. I noticed that he was tired in class all the time. He was tired, I mean, exhausted. And when I spoke with his parents, they said, well, I know he goes to bed at 9 o'clock, but it seems like he tosses and turns a lot. He went to the pediatrician, they did a sleep study, and he literally needed a CPAP machine.
Hmm.
So, and he was a totally different student afterwards. He kept saying how, Miss Coleman, I'm so glad that I got this machine because I feel so much better and so much more rested. So be ready day one and beyond. How do we do that? First, let's go ahead and we rehearse the morning. How do we do that? Well, before they start school, and for some of us, school has started already, but you actually do a walkthrough. So because school has began for so many, I would suggest that getting there just a tad bit early, it helps the students to start their day. The one thing that I do see when students are late for school, if they're late for school, it's almost as if their entire day has been thrown off, especially for a kid who has any type of executive functioning skill deficiencies. It really does disrupt their day. So getting there a little bit early is a great start to any day. And knowing the schedule. I always tell my students, look on your iPad, see what the day is going to bring before you even begin your day. It just helps the brain to have a preview. The brain loves previews. Arrive 10 minutes early. So that's going back to what I just said. Arriving a little early has never hurt anyone. It can only help prepare the brain for what is going to happen. Plan your locker stops. If you know that you have 3 classes in the morning, then a good time to switch those books would be right before lunch, possibly. You switch the books, and then we know we can get the books for the rest of the day. And it sometimes may take 2 different locker switch times, and that's perfectly fine. It depends on the student and depend on their needs. And the next thing, the combination locks seem to be really difficult. I see Julia shaking her head because it can be very overwhelming for some students. So combination locks can be really tough. So get a combination lock to practice at home. How do we turn right, left, right? And really practice that.
So
Bring the lock home for a
I'll
while.
piggyback off that because today we actually had the sixth graders practice opening up their locks, and some of them are getting so frustrated. But once I played a video for them. I even printed out like a this is how to open up your lock, and they practice. They will get it. But even like I have some combination locks here at home too that I kind of take sometimes if I have some students I'm working with over the summer. I'll take to their house and I'll be like, okay, let's practice. And once they get it a few times, then they're good. But yeah, just buying a quick lock and practicing is really helpful.
And believe it or not, this really segues right into their emotional well-being because if it's creating anxiety for them, then that's something we want to eliminate immediately. We don't want the anxiety of having a locker to open, a lock to open. I mean, that can be really daunting for a student. Some schools they won't allow it, but those that do, I've even had students, and when I looked at their accommodations, I literally changed theirs to a digital lock because I mean, we had to take something away. I mean, if are we going to really battle with, are we going to be here trying to open this locker the whole time and deal with the tears and the frustration? Or are we really trying to ultimately just be able to get those things out of the locker so that we can get from one class to another? So we have to choose our battles there. Look at the homeroom so you can actually help them to navigate what homeroom experiences look like, especially for those who have some kind, have social interactions that may be awkward with others, helping to talk with them about that. And it's just really learning the system of what every day looks like. So this takes parents kind of talking through the day. What happened after you went to lunch? And then after you came from there, what happened? So having those conversations are going to be very important.
I'll take this one. Homework, same time, same place, visible plan. Okay, so I love talking to my students about where they do their homework. I'll always sometimes ask them, okay, so you get home, you're done with sports and everything, and it's time for you to do your homework. Where are you doing your homework? And sometimes they'll say, my bed or my room. And I say, no, beds are for sleeping. And resting, and your homework should be done at a desk. A lot of people, they do have their desks in their bedroom, but my suggestion and my advice is always to have them do their homework out somewhere in the open, as long as it's quiet, obviously. But like the kitchen table, the dinner table, no screens on, but just an open space where you can kind of keep an eye on them, not hover, but they have you there as a presence. And there's also no distractions of their bedroom. There's no TV, no game, whatever else they have in their room. Um, a clear surface with supplies available, and the phone cannot be by them while they're doing homework. The phone is so distracting, even for myself as adults. Like, even if our phone is near us, we're like very tempted to just look at it. Even if we look at it really quick, it's incredibly distracting. And another thing that has really helped my students is the timer situation. I know Charell had mentioned a timer as well, but having students work in chunks, especially those who have ADHD or struggle with attention or executive functioning. I teach them something called the Pomodoro method, where you work for, let's say, 25 minutes of just straight work, no distractions, no screens, no phones. And then after 25 minutes, your timer goes off, you take a break. On your break is maybe like 5, 10 minutes. You take a walk, take a snack. You don't get on your phone, you don't watch TV, but you just have that break and then you get back into work. And so I've found that that's been really helpful.
Drop a one in the chat if you've heard of the Pomodoro method before. I'm just interested to know.
There's a really great video on YouTube that I can also send out as well about it.
Yes. Using the Pomodoro method is, I mean, it's phenomenal. Once students start using it, they love it because it does, as Julia stated before, it gives you that 25-minute block, and you can set this timer for whatever amount of time you need. So it's allowing that, 25 minutes, then a long break, then you get back to work. You're earning the break. You're earning your breaks as you go. So, and the breaks get shorter or longer depending on how long you've planned to study for. A lot of students use this even in med school. They
Mhm.
still use this in med school. They still use this for their law school journeys. The Pomodoro method has become very, very widely used and is very effective. So
Mhm.
I would suggest that you definitely incorporate that. And there are lots of YouTube has a lot of different ones. So I mean, it's unlimited in what you can look and find for the Pomodoro method. So that I would highly suggest that. Another thing I'm going to point out here is eating the frog. I give my students the option. Would you like to eat the frog? And eating the frog means that, a frog is pretty hard to chew. So what we want to do is I ask them all the time, would you rather eat the frog or do you want to start with the easy thing first? So if they have the option of eating the frog, this means they're going to work on their most challenging thing first so that they can just kind of breeze through when it comes to their easy assignments. And then some students choose the opposite, the adverse. So it just depends on the student. And when you give them the autonomy to choose, you'd be amazed how they feel more in control of what's going on with their homework schedule.
One more thing I do want to add about homework, because this is 2026 and a lot of the homework is on the computer. That is something to be very mindful of as well, because as we know, the technology can be very distracting. So they could say they're on Google Classroom or Kahoot or whatever it is they're doing, but then they get sidetracked. So as many, and this can be like a whole other conversation, but as many parameters that you can have with their technology, as far as like maybe some blocks, some limited games, that can really help them focus because especially for ADHD kids, they will get really distracted if, they start playing games on their computers and things like that.
Especially during those short breaks, Julia. So
Yes.
that is one of the rules that I actually have my executive functioning students, that's one thing that we can't do on our short breaks is
Yes.
use our phone. We limit that. And again, going back to the phones. So this, I'm going to make this short and sweet. The phones, we have to have agreed upon rules for phones. So I know personally, I'm speaking from experience here. As my two kids were growing up, my husband and I, we always had a rule. And that rule was when they first got their phones, they literally could not use it during the week. They would earn the time. They would earn the time that they're going to use the phone. And you would be amazed if you just set this as a precedence, how they follow through. What I mean by that is for 30 minutes, you earn 30 minutes, get all of your homework done without repetitive reminders. That's 30 minutes there to use when you get your phone on Saturday. And then it was, keeping your workspace tidy where your desk is, your homework desk is. Okay, you've earned another 30 minutes. So they would really work hard to get their technology in use for the weekends, and they will. So if you use this as a reward system, you'd be amazed how kids work for it, especially as teens, because they really want their phones.
Mhm.
So if you could make those kind of the parameters of using the phone, you will see that they will negotiate with you in order to get their phones. So another thing we've always done is the charging station. So again, as Julia said earlier, I mean, this includes mom, dad, it includes you. Like putting your phone away at 9 p.m. Everybody puts their phone away. I know that sometimes as parents, we have other things going on, but we also need to kind of train our brains to be away from that technology and that stimulant at night so that we can get really good rest. So here's some things you can do to make it real tonight for yourself. And we will, again, we will have this as a replay. And we want to remember that when this is one of the icons I like to use. This is not just your battery for your phone. Your phone can also include how much social battery you have for people if you're not careful. If you look at any of these articles, especially coming from the Harvard Review, I read one just last year showing how people are more exhausted, tired, and fatigued. And it's because our bodies are so highly stimulated by so many different devices all day long. And we're just tired and shut down. Well, this doesn't exclude our kids. So if we really try to teach them a different system, a systematic approach now, then it will become their habits later on. So we don't want to drain our social batteries by draining our actual phone batteries every day. So that's going to be important for us to remember. And coaching come from the sidelines. This is just coming back to parenting. August, what are we going to do? We're going to make sure we are doing and we're watching closely. September, try to do things more together. October, it's your turn. You're putting it on them because now we've had 3 months of school. And this is how we slowly pull back our reins as the parent and we give them more autonomy as the actual adolescent. So if you see failure, though, and if you see F's and D's, you see 5 or 6 missed homeworks as you're checking once a week in the portal, then you need to step in immediately. And that includes knowing the counselor's name before it's time to reach out, and knowing the teacher's names before it's time to reach out. So here we left you just a self-advocacy script. I'm not sure I understood the homework. Could I check with you at lunch? These are things that you can teach your child to say so that they can get some feedback from the teacher rather than waiting until I'm all the way in the hole. There is no way possible I can bring this D, to a B, or there's no way possible I can get this F to a C. So you want to teach them to advocate for themselves as much as possible throughout the year.
One thing I can add too, is when you're having conversations around like studying and homework, ask questions like, well, how do you plan on studying for that test? What methods are you going to use? How are you going to study? Are you going to use flashcards, or are you going to use Quizlet, or are you taking notes? Having those conversations helps you understand what their methods are and what their strategies are, and are they actually studying, or are they just staring blankly at their screen or their textbook? And
Correct.
another thing, like Charell was saying, is kind of like, obviously, if you see failures and missing assignments, all of those things, you step in. But for the most part, try to find the balance between hovering and, being there for them. Because something I tell parents as well is, if you want them to make mistakes, obviously they're going to have to learn from some of their mistakes, but you're always going to be their safety net, and they know that. But if there's any time in their life to make a mistake, I think middle school would be appropriate.
Perfect time. It's the perfect
Right.
time.
And it's an experience that they can learn from.
Absolutely. So, we wonder, do they worry about anything? Because it seems like they care about nothing at this point, right? As middle schoolers, you really have to wonder, like, do they care about anything? And like, why are they just so not present to anything the adult says? And we learn in this stage and age that parents know nothing. I used to tell people all the time, you know what? I'm just glad they let me live in their world when they were adolescents, because that's what it seems, that's what it feels. But they do have a lot of worries. Middle schoolers, they worry a lot, but they just intrinsically keep those feelings hidden because it just doesn't seem cool to worry about things at that point. They worry about things like, am I going to get lost going to class when they first start middle school? What if my locker won't open? Who will I sit with at lunch? What if they don't want to sit by me? What about at recess when everybody's, doing a certain thing? What if I don't feel comfortable doing that? What if I'm not a sports person? Everybody's playing kickball. Will my old friends change? Oh my goodness, it seems like Sarah is over there with Jamelia now rather than with me. How could she betray me like that? But we've been friends all the way from first grade to fifth grade. So they start to experience different things like this. So there are things that we have listed here that you can certainly give them some cues and practical things to do about it. If they feel like their old friends are betraying them, because this is a part of their social emotional well-being, it is real, then we need to have a conversation with them and kind of practice, how are you going to approach this? And once you approach it, when is it appropriate time to let it go and be okay with trying to go over and make some new friends? Or when is it appropriate that you just sit down with that friend and have a good conversation about it?
Mhm.
So, again, here it is. One word answers. We just gave you sort of a little slate to look at. So instead of how was school, this is from the parent's perspective. How was school? Maybe you can say, what made you laugh today? Because let me tell you, it's nothing like a teenage child in the car when you pick them up. The only thing they're going to say, how was school? Good. Did you eat lunch? Yes. What did you eat? Hamburger. Everything is a one word answer. But in order to generate a little more, you can ask, what made you laugh at school today? And then you begin the conversation from there, picking up pieces of that piece so that you can have some just general conversations, because that's what you really want to nurture at this stage and age, is general conversations, just so they know I'm a safe place to talk. That's the main thing they need to know in this stage and age. Did you have a good day? Instead of saying that, what was the weirdest thing that happened at school today? You know, do you have homework? Instead of asking that, you need to ask, what's due tomorrow? And how are you planning for it? How are you going to plan for this? I love what Julia said earlier. Oh, what are you going to do to get that done? Oh,
Mhm.
are you going to make a gym kit? Are you going to make a Quizlet? Oh, that sounds good.
I also really like the down here on the slide where it says listen first and fix later. So when they're coming to you with these problems, like one thing I will get a lot, as a learning specialist, because oftentimes students will come to me when they're feeling frustrated with maybe a teacher or an assignment. They'll want to vent to me and say, but this teacher hates me. I get that probably every day. And so something that really helps is when I listen first, and I'm not here to fix the problem. I'm here to understand what happened and then help them problem solve. And usually we come to the conclusion that your teacher doesn't hate you, but you didn't turn an assignment in for 3 weeks, which may have caused some tension there. So listening and fixing later is something that I really like as well.
I love that. I love that. And helping them understand that literally friendships will shuffle in this season of life. A lot of times you'll see friends that have been friends since first grade, and they'll start to veer off the path because now, as adolescents, again, they're learning different parts of themselves. They're learning their own different personality. They're having different likes and different habits that they're building. So it seems pretty normal. And we've seen that friendships change at this point in time, and they'll change once again once they get to high school. So, helping them understand that this is a normal part of life, this is a normal journey, is going to be pretty important for you to help them to navigate this and not to think that, oh my gosh, Sarah hates me. I don't understand, but I used to spend the night over her house all the time. This is true, just life. And of course, we know as adults, we've seen friendships change even in our seasons of adulthood, and it's okay. So, helping them to remember that lonely does not mean that, that's your state of being always. It may be lonely to you find yourself lonely one day, but when you find a new friend, it may be just what you need in that season of life.
Another thing that's big at this age with friendships is they have groups. So they'll say, "Oh, but she's not in my group, my friend group." And so I think like encouraging conversations about, okay, but it's okay to be in different groups. You don't have to stick to one group, and having them understand that as well is really helpful.
Absolutely. So we're leaving you with some parent to-dos, and staying connected is the first one. Staying connected to the school in whatever way you can is a great resource for you understanding what's going on at school so that you can have the conversation. You can begin the conversations with your with your adolescent as they become young adults. Learning the grade portal is super important. If not, things fly under the radar and then it's way too late to catch it. So, and this is not checking daily. Please understand, this is not checking daily. This is literally once a week going into the portal. As a mom, I had two kids and they were on two different grade levels. There was no way I could check every day what was going on. I made Sunday my day. And when I would go in, I physically logged in. I checked my sons, I checked my daughters, and I would say, hey, it looks like you have something coming up because I see that the teacher already put it there. Make certain that you get that done. What is your plan? If I saw something missing, I would say, hey, can you tell me what happened last week? It looks like you had a missing assignment. I thought you were downstairs doing your work last week. What happened? So you can have the conversation and it makes them understand that you're aware. There's an awareness there. Going to open house is one of the biggest things I suggest. I know it may be inconvenient schedule wise, but going to meet the teacher is so important. Just kind of knowing, and because you get a vibe as to how the operation of the classroom works. You may not be able to get a full sense of it, but you can get a vibe of how the classroom setting and structure may be. And then emailing early and kindly, kind as we all know, you get more with sugar than you get more with vinegar, and just to see what the issues are. And then again, as I said earlier, knowing your counselor's name before it is time for a problem. So getting to know them sooner than later. So watch for big changes in their sleep and appetite. This is something that's really important. I've noticed that students that around this age, they start, if they're nervous or if they're anxious, or maybe they feel like they don't belong or fit, then this is when they start having super big changes in their appetite or their sleep habits. So let's watch for that, or frequent stomach aches.
Yeah.
Grade slides is another indication that there's something emotionally going on, or they're struggling very deeply with their academics. And then dropping every activity they used to enjoy. All of a sudden, they used to be a big soccer player and they used to love to stay after school. Now they're like, pick me up early, and they no longer want to be a part of the soccer team. We have to check something's going on. Those are our key indicators there. And if they're withdrawing from their friends, that's definitely an indicator that we need to step on the gas and see what is going on. So we
Another
don't want to ignore those things.
is school refusal as well. If they simply
Yes,
just don't even want to go to school, that's a big red flag as well.
agreed. Agreed. So here we have your action plan here. And this is just reiterating what we said earlier. And we would love for your follow as we place some tips throughout the year to help you to navigate the year. And we enjoy sharing this. And now we are open for questions or comments. And we would love to hear from you.
I just want to point out that there has been some really great conversation in the chat box. Maybe if you just want to kind of take a look at it. Kristen gave some, like, shared some strategies that she used that were really, really good. Did you see the thing about, I can read it if you want, or
Yeah, do you mind?
not at all. Okay, so Kristen said we were able to come to the school a week before school started. I forced my kid to go to practice or to practice opening his locker. We also bought a lock to practice at home. It definitely helped. We also printed out and put his schedule in a page protector to keep in his binder. And she said that they also got a binder bag, which this is really good, that he can carry between classes since they don't allow for backpacks between classes.
I love that.
Um, and the binder bag like keeps all of his things in one place, like the computer, the agenda, conduct card, class folder. And then a few people said that they'd really like the video recording that you guys talked, I'm sorry, the YouTube recording of like setting the timer. So if we'll send that out with the recording of this webinar. And also just got some feedback that the prompts were really helpful, like the talking prompts to get your child to talk. So yeah, no questions that I saw. I hope I didn't miss any. But if anybody wants to come off mute and just like share any feedback or put a question in the chat box, you're very welcome to. We'd love to hear it. Otherwise,
I would
you'll,
say,
yeah.
Kristen, that was a super great idea.
Mhm.
I just have to say that was a great idea. The sheet protector. That's something I do with my students as well. I put their schedule in that sheet protector because, of course, we know it's going to get lost, right? Especially if we have a student with executive dysfunction going on. It's so easy for that to get lost in the shuffle, right? But if we have it, and what I also do is print it. If they have 3 binders, I'll print it off in color and put it in every last binder. And I love, love, love the Trapper Keeper, right? The bag, taking that bag since they can't take book bags in school, because yes, they need those materials for every single class. And so when you put that system in place for them, there's no way for them to have a failed system once they get to another class because they have all the pencils, all the erasers, all those things. And when we do that 15-minute reset on Friday or Sunday, that's when you re-up with those pencils, those erasers, whatever it is that they need, and that one binder or Trapper Keeper.
Yeah.
So kudos, kudos. And those people with the Pomodoro method,
Mhm.
just remember there are several different Pomodoros timers, whether it's 1 hour, whether it's 45 minutes, whether it's 2 hours. You can find any one of them you need on that YouTube.
Yeah.
It's there. And they even have them on Amazon now. The smaller timers.
Oh
I
yeah.
was looking for mine. I think my kids took them off. My kids go to they're in college, but they've been using a timer quite a while. So
Hmm.
they steal every cute little timer that I get on my desk. But I don't see my blue timer up here, so I take it that they've
Hmm.
got it.
I did want to add one thing about lockers. Something that's helped is having a crate in the locker for organization. So rather than them shoving all of their books and stuff, if you like a milk crate, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but just so it helps, like a shelf in the locker, just to help with some organization if they struggle with messy lockers and things everywhere. So that might be helpful as well.
Someone said something to me recently about like middle school, high school, college. It requires a level of like executive functioning that you really it's kind of unrealistic for the rest of your life. Like, for example, after school, it's unlikely that you're going to have seven different bosses who are your teachers, right? Who have seven different sets of expectations, seven different, like potentially platforms that they're using. Like some use Google Classroom, some use more paper-based. So, just like recognizing that it is challenging and like, we're going to provide them with all of the tools that we can, but it's not easy. So, I think it would be hard for any of us to be kind of thrown in that situation again, especially for the first time, like they are, especially like going into sixth grade. So just kind of food for thought that was really helpful for me. But we did have one question that popped up in the
Yeah.
chat, which is how do you transition from unlimited screen time during summer to 30 minutes a day or no screen time during the week? That is a good question, and I'm
It
going to let
is.
them answer that.
Yeah. Just run the clock back. A little bit at a time. That is the play. To run it back a little bit at a time. That means that they've had unlimited time all summer, right? Well, now because school has begun, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna pull back for about an hour, just an hour.
Mhm.
This week we're pulling back for an hour. Next week we're gonna pull back for an hour and 30 minutes. And eventually you're going to get to whatever your mark is that you want to get to, but you're going to do it chunks. It's just like anything else. You're going to do it a chunk at a time. It's not going to be cold turkey, because then you have really, you've picked a fight that you don't want, because now I'm so upset that they've taken this away from me. I'm not going to do anything. That could be the result, right? So in order to, pick your battle, and to have your prime result that you want, which is for them to limit their screen time, you're pulling back a step, a step, a step at a time. So let's start by, even if an hour, if an hour feels too much, let's say 45 minutes.
You
We're
mean
just gonna
cutting
pull back.
off? Do you mean like cutting off 45 minutes? Like when would
Yeah,
like at the end of the night, maybe?
correct. At the end of the night. So if they are typically they're on it, let's say they're on it when let's let I have a perfect example. Get in the car or you get home. Okay, for the first 30 minutes, you don't have any technology. Start there. For the first 30 minutes, you're home, no technology,
And
no phone.
are you like, are they in part of this process with you? Are you explaining to
Yes,
them, we're going to do
yes,
this? Here's the
yes,
expectation.
absolutely. Yes, we are having a conversation. We're having a conversation. This is not a dictation. This is a conversation. Because the more you get them involved in the process of having a conversation, then you are lending them the respect that they feel like they deserve, because it's just how our brains are wired at adolescent stages. So, yes, we're having a conversation. Let's have a conversation about technology. When you get home, we're going to try something different. We're going to not use technology for the first 30 minutes when you get home. And then the next week, okay, you did really good. You did really good. And you know what? I felt better too, because I didn't use mine for 30 minutes. So
Mhm.
being the model there, I didn't use mine for 30 minutes either. And you know what? Something just felt different. You know what? This week we're going to try 45 minutes. Let's try 45 minutes.
Mhm. I like
So let's try to do it that way.
that. I'm going to add one more thought. I saw this, if I'm being honest, I saw it on TikTok, but it was very helpful. And it was just, I think this would be helpful to share with children who are confused as to why they have restrictions on technology. And the question that somebody asked was to the child, if your parent were to take you to a new city, Would they let you have unlimited access and no restrictions? No, because that would be unsafe. And the internet is very much, there's a lot of things that are potentially dangerous on the internet. We can't allow you to have no restrictions. So your parents are keeping you safe. And they're going to, I mean, however you want to phrase it, like they're going to like guide you, make sure you're safe. You have to have restrictions. But I just thought that was like a really interesting way of looking at it. So maybe that'll be helpful to share with any of your students who are confused about why there need to be restrictions.
Right. I totally agree.
Well,
Um,
everyone, this has been so great. Thanks for sticking around. Miss Charell and Miss Julia, you guys were awesome. This was truly like just so much great information, and we really appreciate it. I would love to be able to send the YouTube video that you guys talked about, the presentation recording itself, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to send the your presentation, like if you have the slide deck, just because there was just so much great stuff on it. And I'll also send out both of your emails. But thanks again, everybody. This was wonderful. We appreciate you being here. We are here for you. Also, we have a really fabulous event coming up on October 10th on Saturday. I will send this to you guys via email. I'll send you the YouTube link. Sorry, I was just responding to a chat. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It was so great. But yeah, if you are in the Atlanta area on October 10th from 1 to 4 in a gorgeous building that's attached to the Chambly Library, is that right? Or is it the Dunwoody Library?
Brule Center
The
is, I
Roll
don't know.
Center is attached to one of the libraries. I have to
Dunwoody Library.
Thank you. Thank you. It's attached to the Dunwoody Library. We're having an event that's called Games and Brains. It is to connect with a lot of great learning specialists, vendors. We have had pediatric uh, speech language pathologists. We've had book authors. There's going to be snacks, drinks, games, face paint. So we'd really love to have you. I'll also send the flyer in the email. But let us know if you have any questions. It's entirely free. Um, so, but anyway, thank you guys so much. Let me just make
So
sure.
much. And please
Okay.
reach out to myself or Charell. Those are our contact information there. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we're here for you guys. So,
absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
all
you all.
so
Have a
much.
great
Have a
evening.
great evening. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Cheryl.
No
thank you
problem.
again.
Bye.